Hi, my name is Kim B. Miller, and I'm the Poet Laureate for Prince William County, Virginia. My first poem is titled Poetry Is, and it's in my book called My Poetry is the Beauty You Overlook. Remember when you thought words had to be in a melody to sing to you? Poetry was a foreign flavor and a quiet taste. You thought poems like Roses Are Red made you well read. You didn't realize poetry has blossomed. I don't blame you. Poetry is often unrecognizable, spoken with passion and whispered, written on hearts in invisible ink. So, how can I expect you to embrace the unseen, seen in many forms, but grouped together as one? What is poetry? Poetry is unsolicited help. It holds us up when pain tries to erase our voice. It allows us to pour into emptiness and create peace. The ingredients in one poem can feed people who didn't even know they were hungry. Poets make feelings tangible. They script mountains into pebbles. Poetic verses feel like the wind caress every syllable. Some poems rhyme, no reason. They almost have a subtle fragrance, an undeniable scent that is unexpected but welcomed. This garden of poets is stunning and diverse. Each poet's pen bleeds an alternate personal truth, so don't judge your ink by its color. There are no rules. The lines in paper are just suggestions. Besides, a poet's words ascend from the limitation of paper. They make tears flow. They break stereotypes. Poems are medicinal, and poetry is freedom exhaling. Words are not owned. We all just borrow them. Poetry is rented words meant to make a permanent change. The next time you inhale the aroma of a poem, feel the words and embrace the energy they provide. Embrace unconfinable art drawn with words. Poetry is expression flowered with feelings. It could be a moment or a lifetime of moments. What is poetry? Poetry is the first time you kiss words and words kiss you back. For my second poem, I'd like to do some haiku for you. What are haiku? Haiku are very short poems, only 3 lines, 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables. A total of 17 syllables, not words, unless they're all 1 syllable, to make a point. It started in Japan, only on Nature and Flowers. The other countries switched it up. They really do senryu or non-traditional haiku. So here we go, haiku. Strong women are not unbreakable. We just know you ain't the hammer. Haiku. You cannot divide yourself into fractions to make someone else whole. Haiku. Dear people, stop looking for the help you want and be the help you need. Haiku. It's okay to be scared. Do it anyway. Scared people succeed too. And lastly, this haiku. Haiku. Though it ends in S, happiness is not plural. All you need is you.
I'm Lynda Allen, and this is a poem called At Dawn. There is a moment between the darkness of night and the rising of a new day, a moment only, when all the mysteries of life gather together utterly silent. Those mysteries of the darkness, face to face with those of the light, their secrets mingling, reflecting each other. The darkness passing the baton of exploration and revelation to the light, knowing they will receive it back again with the new day's dusk. If you are still and silent in that moment, as darkness and light mingle, and if you hold your head just right and open your eyes and your heart just a little, you can glimpse all of life's mysteries at once and see the baton pass. You might be able to convince yourself that it was only a dream, but for that new thought or unimaginable wonder that slipped from their grasp into your waiting heart as night passed to day. This poem is called Grow the Good. A box arrived in the mail. A small rectangle the size of a videotape. Remember those? Folded neatly inside was a t-shirt, soft and sky blue, with the words Grow the Good surrounded by butterflies, and peace and wonder below on the pages of a book. As soon as I saw the box and the return address, I knew there would be so much more than just the t-shirt folded up inside. A gift from a friend who would give you the shirt off her back, and did just that before she moved on. The tears flowed as soon as I unfolded it, felt the soft fabric and held it to my cheek. I wept for myself, which I sometimes forget to do. What I didn't know was how the unfolding would continue. As I sit now, days later, I can hear the chainsaw buzzing. I know it's cutting through the limbs of the sour cherry tree beside the house. I went out to say my goodbyes before it began on this cold, quiet winter day. As I looked at her bark, so covered in lichen and the branches that would bear no more fruit, I could feel the need for letting go when it is time. I could understand when someone is tired and ready to move on. They've spent their life energy, are weary of the fight to survive. Know they have done their work and are ready to let go. I knew the difficulty of being the one saying goodbye, the pain that there are no words for, as you move between understanding the need to let go and the reality of letting go. There is a chasm there, which no amount of tears or words of love can fill. It simply has to be a chasm, empty and wide. So I stood with my heart against the cherry tree, tears spilling onto her trunk, and whispered, I love you. And let the ache be there, and let the tears flow, and let the anger rise alongside the guilt. Then I looked up among her branches and offered thanks for the beauty, the shade, the tart nourishment, the greenery and cascades of pink flowers each spring, the perch for my bird friends. I spoke my gratitude for all she had given me with joy in my heart, while at the same time lamenting how different the view would be from my window, how big the hole in the sky will be, how empty I will feel. Standing at the chasm, so like that small box, wondering how much it can hold. My heart, my grief, my love, my loss, my lessons to learn, my gratitude, my joy, my unfolding. A t-shirt, now a treasure. A piece of wood, now a canvas. I place them each gently within my heart, knowing how much it can hold, and move forward with the seeds they each planted there to grow the good. Both those poems are from my upcoming collection of poetry and essays called Grace Reflected.
Hi, I'm Cathy Hailey. Road trips for Alexandra. 1. In Big Stone Gap, Virginia. A summer traveler, our daughter navigates a verdant path in southern Appalachia, driving toward an elusive destination, a new client's residence on Little Stone Mountain. Timber trunks and branches reach to connect, forming a natural tunnel, a lush canopy cocooning her for us, an embrace warmed by a tapestry of dappled sunlight. Inspired by artistic energy, she stops to capture moments on camera, images blurred by glare on windshield glass, captioned by meandering words we read as poetic lines. 2. After Paducah, Kentucky. We travel along by video, witnessing sunlight's ray envelop you as canopy leaves retract, admiring your spirit of adventure, your fascination with freedom on rustic roads. We follow your photographic journey from Virginia to Kentucky, springboards for provocative verse and fluorescent brushstrokes destined for blacklight galleries, unrealized. We imagine sunlight replacing rain, stoplights cleared of unruly branches, our arms reaching around you, protection still possible, if not for crumbled windshield glass on a stormy afternoon. Wind and river. Last night's rain amplified sounds of flowing water in the early April morning, audibly transforming Rattlesnake Creek, winding around behind our house into a rushing river. Still, the sun made a bold appearance, drying pavement, rosebush leaves and tulip petals warming us as we drank tea and coffee with whistling finches and a sparrow serenade. When the wind picked up, rising to a howl and then subsiding, it sounded like ocean waves crashing on the shore, and we dreamed of squeezing together, nearly touching, sharing sandwiches and sodas on the beach, the way we did on family vacations, joining cousins in Point Pleasant Beach, New Jersey. Back home, a storm was clearly brewing, but raindrops only stippled the landscape before the sun beamed bright. The wind screamed in anger without retreating, yet I refused to withdraw into the stillness of the house. I'd rather join forces with wind and river, feel the spiritual kinship that might restore my faith in the future's promise.
Hi, my name's John Dutton. I'm a classroom scribbler. I teach 7th grade language arts at Benton Middle School in Prince William County. I do like to write along with my students. It gets them relaxed. They can always borrow one of my lines or words, and it usually is a good time, and we come up with some great stuff. So I'm also the host of Spilled Ink VA. So if you are out there and you need a venue which to come and read your work, we are there for you. So you can just look up the website to get the schedule of events at www.spilledinkva.com. My first poem is called God's Cathedral. It is on a serious note. I wrote it while I was watching my kids rock climb in Acadia National Park in Maine. God's Cathedral. God's cathedral was not made by man's hand. It was made by the wind, the sea, the sand, and the soil. There is no timetable or tools required to build this house of worship. The only item required to raise this holy house is time. Time's toolbox cannot be contained. Thunder, lightning, wind, rain, surf, sand, snow, and hail. Tools that toil the earth, constantly crafting its beauty. No one who worships here wears their Sunday best or waits for the Sabbath. No offering is collected. The only tribute paid is the sweat running down one's back and the solace one finds in contemplation after challenging oneself to venture outside. The choir consists of waves breaking upon the shore. The creatures chirp and chatter the sermon endlessly. The breeze rejuvenates the congregation, who, when ready, rise to continue onward deeper into the forest. And that was God's Cathedral. Now, the next one I have is on a lighter note, and I love to write and make people laugh. So I would prefer always humorous over serious. So I wrote this one called Walking My Human, and Walking My Human is dedicated to all of you dog owners and dog walkers. Walking My Human. Each day I walk my human. I love watching his mood change the farther we get from home. I know he's not the sharpest tool in the shed, as he often forgets my name. He calls me Ucker, or he confuses me with a duck of all things. I'm not a ducking dog. Well, what a fool he is. I'll sniff and point and eat so much juicy grass chips that he thinks I'm a cow. I'll wander aimlessly and take him on these monstrously long walks. My God, he needs it. He's got a spare tire with him, and he's not even driving. He's fat, and I'm not talking pH fat. I love when we are an hour or so into the walk, and he gets these zombie eyes. I'll wait for one of my friends to come out, Sammy Squirrel or Robbie Robin, and then I'll bolt. Man, I can sometimes hear his shoulder pop out of his socket. I haven't knocked him over yet, but you can't say I'm not trying. My human pampers me. He cleans up my poo, sometimes getting it on his hands or shoe. He'll chauffeur me around town to some of my favorite designer stores, Petco or Off the Leash. He drops a bundle of cash at these stores just for me. Oh, you'll die for those mani-pedis at the salon. They're not cheap, but I'm worth every penny. Everyone stops to compliment me, and not once have I heard anyone tell me, hey, that's a good-looking human you have there. If you haven't gotten yourself a human yet, you're missing out. I'd go get one today and let your entitlement begin. See you later, when I'm out walking my human. And that is Walking My Human. Thank you for having me today. I very much appreciate it. Once again, I'm John Dutton, and keep scribbling. See you later.
I'm Carolyn Kreiter-Foronda, and I served as Poet Laureate of the state of Virginia from 2006 to 2008. Since I moved to the River Country region of Virginia, I've been writing poems about nature and environmental issues. And tonight I'm going to share with you two poems that center on these topics. The first poem is entitled The Clearing. The thwack of a backhoe severs mint-tinted shoots, daffodils and irises sprouting. I flinch as holly splinter, blood-ripe berries scattered around fallen dogwoods. The ground, rain-moistened, longs for the stars' sheen, restful night, its vigilant moon. I stoop to gather spring's first rose-gray headdresses. Afraid to tug at stems, I reach deep into soil to keep roots whole. Far from the scarred clearing, Sawdusted, graceless, I transplant these bulbs, nourished by a dove pair's dance. In autumn, when the land heals, I'll replant the colors among random holly growth and wait for Earth's opulence and for the screech owls who will guard this place, wailing their protective cries. The second poem I'm going to share with you is entitled Testimonial. At daybreak, I find a rabbit overlooked by hunters and bury its limp body. All around, daffodils extend their wind ice wings. The whistling bullet still thrums, the wine fading against the corona's blare. Clusters flared like coarse crinoline, trumpeting all there is to know about yellow, the pearl and splash of dawn, a fleeting finch in weedy fields ambitious to sing. There are hints of Veradine green in the centers. On my knees, I stare into ruffled tubes, patterned bells that proclaim the worth of this animal, its fur catching the oral sheen in the muddy dark. Vigorous, this clearing, its astral growth, a patch of flowers drowning out the unruly world. How can we cut daffodils, place them on tables away from spring's liturgy? We should prefer them scattered throughout the woods, opening their shoots and singing like ornamental chanaberries. Prefer them not quaggy, limp, but upright in the mythic soil, wistful melodies, purposeful, replete.
Hello, I'm David Anthony Sam, a poet in Locust Grove, Virginia. I also serve as the Vice President for the Poetry Society of Virginia for this region. And I encourage poets out there, or those who do want to support poetry, to consider joining the Poetry Society. One of the benefits is that you get to submit to the annual contest, which is just ended. The poems I'm going to read today are from a collection published by Kelsey Books in December of 2019. The collection is Dark Fathers, and it's about my relationship with my father and to some extent his relationship with his father. That relationship between him and me was, it began well and ended well. But there was a long period of strained relationship in between. And while the poems are very personal to me, I hope the issues of love and relationship are something that are more universal and speak to more people than just sons and fathers. The first poem, First and Last, is one written about when he was near his end, suffering decades with heart disease, which finally killed him. First and last. First, there is just darkness, a long pause as the heart dies. See, he breathes, but with difficulty. I remember the time he kicked my dog from the newly painted porch. I thought he was a son of a bitch. Then, years later, he gently cradled the same dog in his arms as the vet injected it with death. I found out just today the dog had brain cancer. For 27 years, he'd kept that knowledge from me. But he can't keep death's knowledge from himself. Between each faltering, the half-dead heart still pumps, wondering if that last thud in him is the last thud he will feel last just before the darkness. And when the machines fail, The new therapies don't work. The operations cannot open heart's blood. In the end, there is just darkness. I can see it in the furrows plowed into his forehead. My father is afraid now. I would cradle him in my arms if it would make the knowledge go away. The second poem is Navigation by Dream. And this derives from a memory I have of when I was about 8 or so, living in a suburb of Pittsburgh. And my father, my uncle, my cousin, and I went out on a fishing trip. It also comes from memories of my father and I going out into the woods, just the two of us. And I put those two memories together in this one poem, Navigation by Dream. His large hand encompassed my small, his hand hard, mine soft as youth. We walked a dream, a forested ridge, watched by a fragile yearling contained by mist. He gathered wild onion and wild carrot for stew. He browned the beef in bubbling of butter, then cooked in a blackened pot, eyes stirred with expectation. We sat above the covered bridge, above the muddy river, and ate from flat aluminum plates with stainless steel spoons. He pointed to the Milky Way and the Bear and Polaris and said this was the guiding light he hadn't found in church. The way he navigated, the way his father had not found. He never showed the photo of his dark father, dead 10 years. Instead, he held my hand as we stumbled down the slag heap that smoked beside the river, that smolders still in dream. So again, both of these poems are available from Kelsey Books or Amazon. You can also go to my website, davidanthonysam.com, and you can look at some poems for free that have been published over the years. Thank you for the opportunity to read today.
Allita Irby, When I Pledge Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, ... I want liberty and justice for all, period. I pray for the United States of America, ... I want liberty and justice for all, period. I pray people of color will not be targets of hate, ... I want liberty and justice for all, period. I pray women and girls will have dominion over their bodies, ... Where is the liberty and justice for all, ? Allita Irby, Green with Envy. When I was 18, I saw him walking on campus beside the Student Union building. When I was 19, we were going steady. When I was 20, I saw him holding hands with Hella Trammell and walking on campus beside the Student Union building. Then I wanted him back. When I was 21, I announced my engagement to someone else. Then I was green no more. Green with Envy was published in the anthology Riverside Writers, Anthology America 2020.
Hi, I'm Laurabolenik. I teach poetry at the University of Mary Washington, and I'm going to read one poem today called Forest Floor, which is from my book in progress. This poem is trying to get into the experience of a forest, and I live near a forest. I live on the edge of Battlefield Park, just on the south side of Fredericksburg, and that's a old growth oak and poplar forest that I walk through, and I've been trying to get into the sense of the way forests feel and how they live. The other part of the context of this poem that I want to say is I had a miscarriage last year, and among many, many other things that have happened this last year, it's felt like a colder year than normal. And that's part of the way in. So, forest floor. I wanted to become more forest-like. That is, to stretch toward blankness, a sheet pulled too tight at the corners of the twin mattress. Everything is thin, thinned out, I'd say threadbare, and even the air I wrap around me like a quilt feels cheap and doesn't warm up. All afternoon, eiderdown has been falling here as I walk the O horizon, unplucking itself from the skin of the forest floor, sticking to my arms, little pieces of down so soft they don't seem to have any quill at all until they prick, sudden pricking over my skin, infinitesimal nibs burrowing back into their goosebumps and deeper into the follicle toward muscle, burrowing like earth workers through mulch, through flexors and extensors inside me, brachialis, subclavius, reaching toward lung as if wanting in their burrowing to root deep enough to reach air again, to surface somewhere new and not their own, in a body in the middle of a breath, to fill my lungs with feathers, to make them buoyant, bloating on the edgeless skin of a pond, a severed wing I can't cough up. And I try to explain to the nurse when she places her hand on my head and says some disorientation is normal, and her face looks almost familiar, a quilt handed down from someone else's grandmother, tucked under my chin on a cold night. And inside it, I'm only one invertebrate tuft, small as an oocyte, nearly weightless, poreless, all surface, uninfected with the impulse to touch my own arms, to smooth the skin, as if I know the feeling will pass, just a chill.
My name is Mike Maggio. I'm a poet and a fiction writer. I'm a member of the Poetry Society of Virginia, in which I used to be the vice president for the Northern region. And I'm going to read a couple of poems that are from my forthcoming book, which is called Let's Call It Paradise. It's going to be published by San Francisco Bay Press, and it should be out hopefully by April. So the first poem is the opening poem, and it's called Siren Song. Come, let us go now to a place beyond dreams. Let us arise and go now through the fond, murmuring streets, through the blind, stuttering boulevards, where siren song stills the air, where the minute's wheels wend our way to that elusive, rapturous bliss. Let us rush now, you and I, like the honeybee to its hive, to the merry manic marmalade malls, to the towering halls of dithering tongues, to the glittering temples that mesmerize all, where those who seek know not what they crave, yet surrender to pipe and drum and sweet serenade. There in short shrift shall we find our solace, there cast-offs to shores of grief and joy, like ghosts, like waves dashed upon rock, will drift past glimmering galleons, covet the treasures of shipwrecked men, grope for beads, for baubles and gems, while all the while we sink and swim, swim and sink, and the siren's song sweetly scuttles our unsolaced souls. Come quickly now, submit at once to this hasty urge. Not greed nor grail shall accept one dram, nor glass render reason, nor brass surrender seasons we cannot escape. Let gold and silver release their grasp, and jewels their hapless jaded clasp. Yet snow shall not discharge, nor rain postpone the swift completion of our most sacred rounds. Hurry now, rise up, let desire trumpet the way. Let us in full fanfare not delay. Let serendipity draw us fast from these transient, abandoned alleys to the splendid golden valleys where tree and grass defy the sky, where silken flowers in concrete lie. Let spouse nor child obstruct the way. The time has come to submit and pay. So this next poem is called Hair, and as you've seen from the first one, there is some rhyme. This one is all rhyme, which is quite unusual for me because I normally don't work in rhyme, but this poem would have it no other way. It's called Hair. Let's talk about hair. 15-minute wear without a tussle or a tear. Sometimes you just don't spare. Light and dreamy as air, through rain, sweat, and glare, even through your wildest affairs. Some things we just don't share. Time to remove the nair in downtown Buenos Aires. It's simply there, right straight through that frizzed up scare. So please don't stop and stare, or curl up, or otherwise care. It's nothing more than matte lumiere, getting down right here in Times Square. And the last poem I'm going to read is actually the last poem in the collection, and it's called My Paltry Piece of Paradise. My paltry piece of paradise, a small float and a tiny volume of filamentary material, extreme fatigue and panic attacks, the mortgage, the gas bill, the bank, a real opportunity to make money here. Vocation, 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 a job today, a job tomorrow, romance, and that distinct feeling of dysphoria. How do I get an outside line? Tea and cakes and marmalade, dysarthria and its serious side effects, the state of catatonia, assuring that the meds are working and then adjusting the volume. In case of emergency, add some of the rice water with the Celexa. Withdrawal, one more piece of information to remember. One more piece of information to remember. I have read your email. All information confidential, typed or printed, guaranteed to be hacked. Dyspepsia, dyslexia, disassociation, Motilium 10 milligrams, Prozac 20 milligrams, assistance with same-day discrepancies, to be or not to be, in case a detailed report is requested, add tomatoes, fold in your favorite shirt, unironed, stir in a second-class stamp. Lift here to experience. Thank you very much.
Hello, this is Elizabeth Spencer Spragins, and I write traditional poetry with an American twist. And my first poem that I'll be reading is from the collection Waltzing with Water, American Style Tanka. The first one is entitled Storm Surge, and it's set at the Rappahannock River in Fredericksburg. Storm Surge. A river of rain charges up the battered bank. Runaway horses leap the fence for open fields and thunder into freedom. My second poem is from the collection The Language of Bones, American Journeys Through Bardic Verse. And the first one is entitled Spires, and it's set at Muir Woods National Monument in Mill Valley, California. Spires. Redwoods wait. Sentinels with spears held straight guard the realm where night meets day. Stay the sun at Sylvan Gate. Dusk abides where the spotted owlet glides. In this forested cocoon, moon no longer leads the tides, and time slows. Doors to decades past unclose. Echoes of a Miwok drum summon shamans from death's doze. Lofty spires lift Orion when he tires. Fingers brush a sacred face, grip the grace of diamond fires. Linger late, look with awe and meditate on the bridge from earth to sky. Rungs are high, but redwoods wait. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Katherine Gotthardt, and I'm going to be reading two poems from my book, D.C. Ekphrastic, Crisis of Faith, inspired by the photography of Ethan Merlin. The first one is called Discussion Topic. You told me once, maybe 2 decades ago, in this same space by the window, coffee in hand, face mocking serious, true love endures beyond the grave. Except now, I am old enough to ask sincerely, what if there is no grave? Don't look at me funny. What if there's only the immortality of now, striking a pose like some bathing suit model, gesturing to you, hips forward like you're still young and I'm still the jealous type, and we've yet to have our children? And so I tell you, no, I'm not sure about forever love, my dear. Not sure about it at all. I'm not sure the waves would want to bear ours, nor am I sure sand would care to cradle it any longer. Tell me, when was it we last walked the shoreline, scrunching our toes around smooth rock and memory, kissed each other's fingers and watched the sunrise, or set? It doesn't matter which. Too long, and even then that sip of bitter coffee you just took longer compared to our years together. Is this what you wanted to carry into infinity? Look a little closer. See how time holds its breath, daring that same death to take it? It knows more than it tells, having seen the tides change, having asked from whence the water comes, having witnessed season beget season, night beget day, and yet still the mad drive to create something to outlast itself when really there was never a need. Afterlife was always here. We were always here. Now don't we feel silly? And the second poem is called Love Speak. The irony of language. It's a gorgeous word. Say it out loud. Language. Say it for the sake of linguistics. Say it for the sake of Old Lang Syne. Say it for the sake of now, celebrating it daily, hourly, prefix, suffix, present participle, and all that was and is and still could be. Let your words love on language, dedicating sonnets and stories and whispers, remembering that were it to be taken, surely life would be cloistered, celibate. Wear the habit of silence. Listen hard now. Write it down now. See what you said? Now speak it loudly, never letting it languish. It is something of its own, something of a miracle, this delicate promise, possibility. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bennie Herron, and I'm going to read a couple of poems. The first one is titled Mama and Them. I am remembering whole chicken sacrificed in deep oil. I'm remembering August 1983 and Mama's battles with bourbon-eyed gin rummy players that spit too much when they talk. They cursed to music in my head, eating fried bird while telling lies about how small they used to be and how big hips come from knowing too many children. They sat around a kitchen/hair braiding table, calling out card names under Sam Cooke's voice. The cards were sticky, trapped in brown fingers, damp and limp from escaping cigarette smoke. Men had no place in this circle. Mothers kept its shape. That night, men only needed arms and lips for an occasional hug and nape kiss, then back outside to the hemp smoke and fight stories. Occasionally, a Bible verse would enter the sanctuary, just to remind the circle how it came to be. Mama and Auntie forgot stories, pushed one another off clouds, jockeying for a position while ice cubes danced in shallow, dark pools. They never finished any conversation. Each name, event, and place led to another name, event, and place. This circle was loud and silent, a dance from storytellers' lips that used the volume from experience to carry its rotation. And lastly, this poem is titled B. Bend metal, act still, be still, trust only your legs, use them, stand firm, breathe deep, walk free, exist inward, cross waters, restructure, disembody, reassemble, organize, disengage, insist, be birth, engender, unearth, dissolve, deliver, let go, go back, then be you, be her, be him, divide, detour, impress, impeach, then be, then be, then be. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jenna Vilforth Veazey. Thanks for coming out tonight. The poem I'm going to read to you today is Hey You, Monster. You're nothing. Yeah, I'm talking to you, monster. You've got nothing on me, you know that. You call yourself mean? Well, I'm fire. Take that. I burn so fast and so hot, I could launch rocket ships. In fact, I could launch the entire Empire State Building into orbit with my fire. Arsonists would kill for my heat. And I'm not like you. I make sure to warn the people I like. Listen, I just have this thing I do, but it's nothing to be concerned about because it doesn't last long and then I'm over it. It's totally fine. Sometimes I forget, Monster? I don't even see what's in front of me except white hot danger. And then, watch out. I will roast you like last week's forgotten burnt brisket, warm my toes on the ashes of whatever's left. This is just how I am. People have got to understand that. Monster, I know you. You get it. I didn't ask for this fire. It was burnt into me. How can I extinguish flames that want more than anything just to shine? That is like asking the sun to just hold up a minute. It's not my fault. Everyone else is too weak. You get it. You know what I'm talking about. It's lonely. It's so lonely how no one else can hold up, can ride with me, can take the heat and last. It's lonely, Monster. You get what I mean? What I'm trying to say? Monster? Monster?
My name is Cathy Smaltz. I was the Prince William County Poet Laureate from 2016 to 2018, and I'm happy to be here with you today to read some poetry and enjoy all of the poems that we will be hearing today. My first poem is from my book, which is called Pieces, and the title of it is Spring. 1. On this cold March morning, a black bird's beak digs into wet dirt. Yesterday's snow melted into mud makes the worms an easy meal. Not as many people are writing nature poems these days, the poet says, after intriguing me with what her heart knows of the moon. So I write of the bird in my backyard that digs in front of our children's old swing set, that mausoleum of memories standing derelict except for the red Tonka Lego truck on top, sentinel of their lost world of play. My youngest son went out briefly to sled down the steep hill behind the church, and I pressed my footprints down into its fine white field, heel to toe, that crunching sound only made in packing snow. If my grandchildren ever ask me what sounds I loved most in my youth, I will tell them this. This one was my favorite, for it spoke of beginnings. 2. On patchy yellow forsythia, red-breasted robins dart from branch to branch, snow below them, cold on their feet. I try but fail for a photo contrast of spring and winter, one season groaning into life while the other dies. It is only when unwelcome winter holds on to life, clinging long past its time, that I mourn how little I gave myself to her. 3. We made it through winter, we all say, as though these dark months didn't shield us from spring's desire and summer's wanton despair. We are quick to forget the way winter, in its chasing us indoors, offered us quiet reflection, an excuse to disengage. 4. My son started the bottom of a snowman, but kept on rolling 50 yards, leaving in his wake a bright green swath. Now a haystack of snow stands testament to our spring miracle, and I watch it shrink, refreeze each day. 5. The fake cloth flowers on my kitchen table speak of spring, that grand masquerade, and each year that passes, we, the willing procession, pretend we do not know. Speak not of our necessary losses. My second poem today is called Roots, and it was written about 11 months ago, maybe 10. We were in the quarantine. It was when A year ago, we all learned what it was like for winter to continue into spring. Roots. Lantana roots, too long for the green planter on our back porch, can't stretch deeply, so they double back on themselves, the flowers losing vibrancy each day in this quarantine May. When my husband tries to save the plant by pulling the roots back up out of the dirt, cutting off part, their tiny pink petals drop off days later. Their leaves wither around the edges. Like the lantana, we're also kept in our houses, our worlds shrinking day by day. We may also send shoots down into the soil, but we cannot be cut and replanted, placed in new window boxes to wait out this virus. For out there, sickness lurks, and maybe too, death. Our roots are better off left alone, doubling back, our flowers too big for our pots. Thank you for listening today. My love of poetry has been a lifelong love, and I'm very pleased that my first book, Pieces, came out in the fall of 2019. Of course, we know that several months later, life changed as we know it. And the poem that I read second is a part of the COVID Art and Poetry Project, which can be found online. Thank you. Keep reading.